Today we're going to talk about how to make a line plot with mixed denominators. So you see here we have a table. What we're going to do eventually is we're going to take the information from our table and put it in our line plot. So first, let's take a minute and read the information in our table. So we can see that we have our months of the year. And then for each month, we have listed the rainfall that fell during that month in inches. So for example, in January, we had 3/4 of an inch of rainfall or 3/4 of an inch of rainfall. So let's take a moment and read through each month and think about the types of fractions we see as we're reading those quantities. So what did you notice? That's right. We have fractions such as 3/4 that are less than 1. We have fractions that are greater than 1. And we have fractions that are greater than 1 in both mixed number and improper fraction format. So means we're going to need to do a little bit of work when we're switching back from our mixed number to our improper fraction. What did you notice about the denominators? That's right. We have 3 different denominators. We have halves, fourths, and eighths. So that tells us that we're going to need to partition our line plot into the smallest fractional value of those 3, and the smallest is eighths. So we will need to partition our line plot into eighths. Now let's think about where our line plot should begin and where our line plot should end. So if we look at our data, we can see that our lowest measurement would be 3/4. And then our highest measurement or greatest measurement would be 1.5. So we can create a line plot that goes from a value less than 3/4, so we can say 0, and a value that goes higher than 1.5, so we could choose 2. All right, so let's get started. First, you know that every line plot must have a title. So let's look at our information and think about what it's talking about. It's talking about our monthly rainfall, but it is in inches. So let's keep it simple. How about monthly rainfall in inches? And our title will go at the top. The next thing we need to do is we need to label our axis at the bottom so that when we're reading the data, we know what the numbers down here stand for. And we know from our table that these numbers tell us the amount of rainfall in inches. So let's label down here, rainfall in inches. Okay, so we have our title, we have our axis labeled, and now we're ready to create our line plot. So we said that we were going to create a line plot that went from 0 inches to 2 inches. So first thing I always do is just mark off those amounts. Then those are my holes. But remember, I had fractional values of halves, fourths, and eighths. So now I'm going to take each of my holes and I'm going to divide them into halves. So this would be 1/2. And this would be 1 1/2. All right. Now I'm going to partition my line plot into fourths. So now I'm going to go to my half, and I'm going to break each half in half. And that will give me my fourths. So that's 1/4. This would be 2/4. This would be 3/4. And 1. This would be 1 1/4. 1 1/2, or we could also call that 1 2/4. And then this would be 1 3/4, and then 2. All right, now I need to partition this into eighths. So again, I'm going to go to each section and I'm going to divide it in half, and that's going to give me my eighths. So that's 1/8, 2/8, 3/8, 4/8, 5/8, 6/8, 7/8, and 1. 1 1/8, 1 2/8, 1 3/8, 1 4/8. Uh-oh, I messed up. Let's go back. 1 2/8, forgive me. 1 3/8, 1 4/8, which is equivalent to 1 1/2. 1 5/8, 1 6/8, and this would be 1 7/8, although we know we don't need that because my greatest value is 1 1/2. All right, so now my line plot is labeled with my quantities, or my data amounts, my inches of rainfall. And now I need to plot my data. Remember, when we plot data on a line plot, we are going to use X's. So I'm just simply going to go down my table and mark these on my line plot. So 3/4 would be here. 1 1/8 would be here. 3/2. What is 3/2 equal to? 3/2 is equal to 2/2 plus 1/2, which is equal to 1 1/2. So I need to make a mark here. I need to make a mark for April at 1 inch of rainfall. May had 5/4. So just like I did with 3/2, let's show our work for 5/4. So 5/4 is the same as 4/4 plus 1/4, which gives us our mixed number of 1 1/4. So here's 1, here's 1 1/4. 1 1/2, I have a second one, so remember my second X goes up. Notice I'm being very neat. I'm keeping my X's on that same horizontal, so it makes like a horizontal line or straight line when you look across. And then as I'm going up, I want to put the same amount of distance going up too for each of my columns. All right, 6/8. 6/8 is on my number line. It's right here. So 6/8 is equivalent to 3/4. Another 1 whole inch in August. 1 1/8 inches in September. October had 9/8 of an inch. So if I know that 8/8 is 1, then this would be 9/8. So that would be 1 1/8. 7/8 is here. And 1 1/4, which is going to be here. All right, And that is how we create a line plot with mixed denominators.